And welcome everybody to Crumbling Descent, I want to say. Oh man, Crumbling. I have the name Crumbling Abyss in my head because that's an area in Ragecraft. So you might notice there are no game sounds. I'm also doing this as a voiceover after the fact because I recorded a total of 3 videos without any audio whatsoever because I'm an idiot. And always forget to double check my recording software to make sure things are working properly. But yes, today we are playing Crumbling Descent, and I'm kind of bummed that I lost the audio, the original audio, because I had a lot of fun with this map, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do it justice with this first episode, but the next episode it should be live action, which is nice. And I think I just showed it. The creator of the map is Suda or Tsuda or something like that. And I got to make sure that I got the name right. Crumbling Descent, yes. Rules, basic rules. Don't abuse TP books. There are some basic but different mechanics. I haven't used. I haven't seen TP books, teleport books used extensively in a lot of maps. So that was different to see. And overall, it's just a really unique map. So I was looking for something to play after Burnout Fantasy, and was just kind of strolling through the maps, and I came across this one, and it was advertised as a concept map, where basically the idea is that the entire dungeon, or all the dungeons, are made out of gravity blocks, like gravel and concrete powder and that kind of stuff. So I think the book here kind of explains it. So that way, the idea is that you can, the environment is going to trigger if like a creeper explodes or you break a block or whatever it might be, and just kind of adds another layer of difficulty, I think, to the map, and seemed like a really interesting idea to me. I mean, we've seen gravel, gravity block areas in the past. We recently played one in Burnout Fantasy, in fact, where Render had an entire area made out of gravel. That one didn't play very well. We were able to kind of just run through it and kill the boss. But I love the idea behind gravity block areas, and so that's why this one really stood out to me when I was looking for something to play. It is, I believe, a strawberry jam map though, and whenever playing jam maps, you have to keep in mind that these are made quickly and often are unpolished and unbalanced, and all that kind of stuff. And this was also just I got a piece of iron there for a second. Anybody else see that? That was weird. It's weird doing this without any kind of game sounds whatsoever, and I imagine it's not as enjoyable to watch. Breaking that center block was not a good idea. I regret doing that and wish I had fixed it sooner. And I will leave it at that. But it's just, I don't know, this map is very different, and so I kind of, it starts off a little rough, let's say. But it's a vertical map, and it's a very kind of compact vertical map too. One thing that I talk about at one point during this video, or at least that I did talk about in the original commentary, is how much this map reminds me of a map by Akaran, and I don't remember the name of the map. I know he made 2 maps. He made this one that I'm thinking of right now that is very similar to this Crumbling Descent in terms of its verticality. I guess that's really the main similarity, but it had like an elevator that you took down or up to get to the different dungeons. Otherwise, it was a pretty traditional CTM. He also had this other map, though, that was, and I forget the name of that one too, but it was for 1.7, I believe, and it was more like an obstacle course almost than the type of maps that we see nowadays. And I started talking about how it kind of was like Akaran seemed to be trying to take the genre maybe in a different direction. Because I feel like the genre kind of, especially with 1.8 kind of pushed the game overall, but CTM maps as well, more in the kind of adventure RPG type gameplay. And just to kind of qualify all of this, the CTMs in general are a very diverse genre. So I'm just speaking generally here. But overall, they have kind of moved more towards that adventure style map, as opposed to like we used to get a lot more of the kind of challenge obstacle course type maps, um, the ROM hack style kind of Kaizo Mario type maps, a lot of platforming parkour. Think of like 3-2s. Gosh, what was the name of that one? Super hard mode or whatever. That may have been the super hostile one because Vex made one too. That style of map has really kind of died out. And I was about to say died out in popularity, but I'm not sure they were ever really that popular. But maybe they were. But I feel like one of the reasons why the genre went more towards the adventure stuff is because that's a larger player base. Um, I handle this very well right now. But I don't know, it's just more appealing gameplay I think for a broader player base. Whereas I was always kind of really attracted to that kind of obstacle course style gameplay. And Akaram made one of those maps, and I've always enjoyed it. I don't think I've ever beat it. I know I have a series of it on my channel, and I wish I could remember the name of it. It's an interesting map. It's floating islands kind of style, but I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that everything is made out of gravity blocks. And then also this really surprised me right here. So, well, yeah, because I die, and then I take some more fall damage. But I guess not. I guess I was invincible there for a second. But yeah, the TNT exploding when the blocks fall down, that was awesome. I was not expecting that whatsoever. Um, and that moment right there was like, ooh, I gotta keep playing this dungeon. I gotta keep playing this map because this is really interesting. I do talk about at one point how it could benefit from some kind of lighting. It's very dark, some kind of atmospheric lighting in the walls or something to just to give it a little something because it's just kind of very dark all the way down. And also how, technically the player could just kind of just hop down. I mean, it would be somewhat risky, but I feel like it would be really easy to bypass a lot of the gameplay in this map. Um, but you can do that with a lot of maps, I guess. But I wonder if it would work better going up vertically. I'm sure the map maker thought about that and went with the downward stuff. I mean, you could just tower up, right? But I feel like towering up is a little harder than just like jumping down, especially because later on you get access to iron pretty early, which I guess we don't have access to water yet. I don't think. I'm getting ahead of myself though, um, and we die again, man. We die again. I jumped over there thinking, oh, it's just a skeleton spawner with a bow. I'll just knock him off real quick, and then I jump over there, and he ends up having a sword with knockback, which surprised me. And then I just kind of handled it poorly. But I guess I was just kind of thrown off by a lot of the things. And you see this like my first episode of Burnout Fantasy. I think my first episode of Divinity Zen 2, maybe. I've gotten into this habit of whenever I start a map, just kind of being all super loose and just kind of not caring very much. I don't know why that is. And for this one, I think it's at least partially because I'm like, oh well, this is new. I don't know what to expect here. And I'm like, well, what happens if we do this? And what happens if we do that? And it kind of reminds me of when I was younger. 360 no scope. But I was always somewhat. I was a curious child. You might hear my family in the background. I'm recording this Saturday morning. I was always a very curious child, and I was the type of kid who touched the stove, who touched the hot stove, just to see. Well, that's interesting. I wonder what happens when I do this. And I remember the blister that I got too on my finger from that. Oh man. I like to light things on fire. I loved fire, man. I loved playing with fire, and just did a lot of stupid stuff. I used to be fascinated with like knives and like throwing knives. So one time I like threw a screwdriver into my foot because I didn't have throwing knives. So it's Phillips head screwdriver was the closest I could come to, and that's why I still have a star-shaped scar in my foot. But so I think that part of me is kind of coming out in the maps to some degree, where I'm just kind of like running around, do 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 do. Oh my gosh, there's TNT. Well, let's go set it off, kind of stuff. And maybe that works sometimes, but as of late, I feel like I've been dying a lot early on in maps until I kind of like start to take things a bit more seriously. So we get the very first objective here, and then it goes down. And I just gotta say, overall, I'm loving how compact things are. It's a really interesting concept with the gravity blocks, with the layout as well, this vertical layout moving downwards. And I'm dying a lot too. I think I say at one point it still seems maybe a little on the easy side. Uh, Not necessarily in a bad way. And the mapmaker says he was going for easy. So but I don't know. I just wonder, like, could I just basically just jump my way down without facing too much resistance? So I don't know, but it's a really interesting map nonetheless. And we already got our first objective. And now I don't know what to talk about because I'm just standing here doing nothing. What was I doing? I must have been going off on some lengthy tangent like I just did, telling you my life story or something. It is still going, like I was still playing, right? Okay, it's moving again. I have no idea, you guys. I have no idea. Um. Oh, so yeah, it's a good map. And again, it's a concept map, so I feel like progression is off. I think we get access to gold and then chainmail, like right after one after another or something. But I'm digging it, and I would like to see more of these types of concept maps, or I like to think of them as like obstacle course maps. And the ones that always come to mind for me are the ones from Zcash, where it would just be like these little dungeons with these little mini challenges. Um, like one of them is where you have void fog and slowness, and I think you can't jump. Or maybe you can only move forward by jumping or something. There's some kind of limitation on your movement. And then it's nothing but creepers. So it's just blindness, limited movement. You may have like a knockback sword or something, but you're not really intended to kill the mobs. It's just like navigate through this maze kind of thing. I don't think I'll ever beat it, but those types of challenges are a lot of fun. Again, not very appealing, I think, to a wide to a wide player base. If I make another map, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be more kind of stuff like that, I think. And I know when they initially came out with Monumenta, I was kind of hoping that it would be something more like that. So like think Hypixel with like mini games, but the mini games are like PvE oriented challenges. Um, Whether it's parkour or whatever. So I was gonna end the video, but I was like, no, we'll see how the next floor is. What Dungeon 2 has in store for us. But yeah, so something like a CTM minigames type server is what I had hoped Monumenta was going to be. And they took it in the complete opposite direction, where it's more like an adventure RPG experience, like an MMO. But I still think the idea of like a CTM minigame server is not a terrible idea. On the other hand, I say this as somebody who tends to be very neurotic about the way I play these maps. And so in the past when I've played with other people, it's not that I get annoyed or anything, it's just that I feel like I tend to play them a lot differently, and either will end up kind of taking a backseat, or more often will just kind of go off on my own and do my own thing. So maybe CTMs themselves just aren't really that well suited. Although again, I think something like more like an obstacle course, and in some ways that's kind of what like Overcast, the Overcast network. I think that's what it was called, with like the capture the wool type mini games. I guess that's kind of what it was, right? But that was very PvP oriented. So something more collaborative, kind of like, yeah. I don't know exactly how it would work, I guess. And that's why I'm thinking, well, I'd rather just do it by myself than with other people. Um, but I guess part of the challenge would be designing dungeons to it. Another thing that came to mind for me was because they were talking about doing, I don't know, some kind of competitive CTM gameplay, something or other, like a UHC, I think, but in a CTM map. I don't know. I was thinking, just thinking of ways to come up with events. But one thing was like a dueling. Yep, and we die again. You know, like dueling pianos. If you've ever seen that, where the two people playing pianos will like do like a duel or whatever. Doing like that, but with map makers, like dueling map makers. I don't know exactly how you would do it, and it would have to be like smaller areas, smaller challenges. Maybe you have like the Twitch audience like suggesting things or something, and then have players play them as well, or maybe have them play each other's map. That would be interesting. Anyways, you guys, lots of deaths so far. Really interesting map. Enjoying it quite a bit, but that's going to be it from me for today. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.